Hello, everyone. This is your host, Cora Dive, bringing you into another foray in the world of mythology. Today, we are bringing you an Inuit legend, Sedna. So, gather any materials that you may need, and let's begin. Sedna and the birth of the sea creatures. Sedna and her father lived together in a skin covered tent on the icy edges of the ocean. Although he was a capable hunter and she wanted for nothing, she dreamt of a life beyond her isolated village and the boring young men who courted her. Many suitors desired to wed Sedna, but none had won her attention or heart until a handsome stranger arrived in a shiny silver kayak, wearing dazzling furs and carrying an ivory spear. He offered to take Sedna back to his far off land. "Come with me, sweet girl," he said. "In my homeland, you will never have to work again. You will live in the finest luxury, and my servants will attend to you." In spite of her father's reservations, Sedna accepted the handsome stranger's offer and barely looked back as his kayak bore her away. They had not traveled far when Sedna's new husband raised his arms to the sky. His handsome face lengthened out into a beak of a seabird, and his outstretched arms transformed into wings. This was just the first of many shocks for Sedna. When they reached her husband's homeland, it was populated by seabirds like him, and was even colder and more desolate than her village on the edge of the sea. When he showed her to their new home, she gasped in horror. The tent was made from rotten fish skins, the only blanket a smelly walrus hide, and her only food the raw fish guts left over from the bird people's feeding frenzies. "Oh, why did I ever leave my home?" Sedna cried. "I'm far worse off here than I ever was there." She thought of her father and the comfortable life she had abandoned. "Oh, father, if only you knew what kind of life I was living here, you'd come and fetch me back home at once." After a year had passed, Sedna's father came to visit her. When she saw his kayak approaching, she ran out to meet him and released her grief in a gush of sobs. She was mistreated, miserable, and wished to go home. Without hearing another word, Sedna's father pulled her into his kayak and began to paddle back toward their home. When Sedna's husband returned to their tent and found his wife gone, he summoned the other bird people. As a flock, they took to the air and struck out after Sedna and her father. It didn't take long until they found them frantically paddling toward home. The cloud of bird people began to beat their wings furiously and summoned an enormous windstorm. They dove at their victims and bit with their sharp beaks. It was too much for Sedna's father. "Take my daughter back, but spare me," he cried, hurling Sedna into the waves. "No, father!" she screamed, clinging to the side of the kayak. Consumed by his terrible pain, Sedna's father whipped out his hunting knife and severed her fingertips as she clung to the kayak. As they fell into the frigid water, an amazing transformation took place. Her fingertips became whales and swam away. Sedna continued to hang on, and the seabirds continued to dive. So her father sliced again, cutting off her fingers, which became seals, and her thumbs, which became walruses. Sedna, her eyes full of despair, sank down out of sight into the icy depths. Her husband and his people, seeing her demise, flew away satisfied. The waters calmed and the sky cleared, and Sedna's father rode home. When he reached his lonesome tent, he bedded down for the night, exhausted. He awoke hours later to a dripping form looming over him. It was Sedna, her eyes glowing with a horrible light. Her father flung up his arms to protect himself as the ice opened beneath the tent, plunging them down into the dark water. There, Sedna's cowardly father drowned, and she became the goddess of the sea. From then on, the sea animals created from her fingers and thumbs obeyed her commands. And when the people on land angered her, she would withhold her creatures from the hunters and send storms to swamp their kayaks, until a day when they could sufficiently win back her mercy and good graces. Goodness, a vengeful goddess, but somewhat rightfully so, it seems. I'm pretty certain having all those seabirds swoop down upon you is quite frightening. I mean, look at the movie The Birds. Well, that is it for Sedna. And we will take another foray into the world of mythology next time. Until then, this is your host, Cora Dive, signing off.